Hi, folks. John J. Zelenka, a.k.a. Johnny Laser here. Now, a few people have questioned why the name Johnny Laser. Could it be that I built my first helium neon laser at the age of 10? I guess that could be as good a reason as any, but it's not the one. I've been working with lasers in the entertainment field for over 20 years, and I'm also what's referred to as a certified federal expert witness regarding lasers, so if you need me, let me know. Could that be the reason? Not even close. Pray tell, what then? Well, that prestigious moniker was bestowed upon me by the fire department of the City of New York's explosive unit. That's right. They're the folks that approve everything from the Macy's fireworks display here in New York on the 4th of July to the pyrotechnics used in movies, filmed in New York, and also rock shows. And another type of rock show, tunnel excavation and the like. These folks are literally the salt of the earth. And they also know how to blow the earth up to get to the salt. All of them have worked as what's known here in New York as sand hogs, the ones who excavate beneath the city and the foundations to make room sometimes for the foundations of skyscrapers and the like. One even has a family lineage with the sterling reputation of taking credit for the largest controlled explosion in New York City. I would encounter these wonderful people in the course of my duties at various events. Their stories can make you laugh till you cry. I'm going to show you their actual logo. So, they began to call me Johnny Laser, and well, the name stuck. And I could not be prouder of it. Wouldn't you be? Side note, okay, I used to meet them regularly, but haven't in over a year due to the obvious reasons, and I miss every one of them dearly. I'm sure many of you have the similar stories about people who you suddenly haven't seen and never had a chance to say a proper goodbye to. Well, soon enough, you'll be saying hello again. I arrest my case of dynamite. Hey, another landmark week for NASA. And I'm not talking about the latest Mars mission. I'm talking about the Apollo mission and the naming of NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. after Mary W. Jackson, the agency's first black female engineer. I refer you to the book and movie Hidden Figures. Now on with the show. Today we have the return of Joe Pedoto's Anaglyph Jukebox. So much fun. Then some of the first pictures we've gotten for the gallery. Winter. Contributors Paul Hutchins from the UK and well-known Ron Labbe in Massachusetts. Then a primer on how to mount stereo slides by the legendary Dr. T, who will be here after he's completed, believe it or not, a 50K run. So if he's a little out of breath, forgive him. Then we'll move on to Dave Camo's After Party, where your microphones will be plugged back in, and you'll be able to chime into the things that we do. Just as a reminder, all of the shows are available on YouTube, Vimeo, and we ask you to subscribe to our channels. It means something. We're also streamed to your television, the recorded versions, on Roku and Amazon Fire TV, and we now have a podcast, all of the details of which you can find on our website, the number 3dnsa.org, or in the newsletter notice that you receive weekly announcing the show. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Like us, follow us, but not too close. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, a return of Joe Pedoto's Anaglyph Jukebox.
Welcome to today's edition of the Anaglyph Jukebox. You never know what you'll find on the old jukebox. Let's press B31. Okay, we've got Underground Comics 3D. Does anyone here remember head shops? For about a decade in the 1960s and 1970s, there existed stores that packaged and sold the hippie lifestyle. The most elaborate of these sold clothing, incense, smoking apparatus, and other drug use items, record albums, posters, and comic books. But these were not mainstream comic books. These were independently created and published by a group of freaks, largely centered in San Francisco, who took complete editorial freedom to its limit. Robert Crum, one of the most impressive artist-writers of this new generation, said this: "People forget that that was what it was all about. That was why we did it. We didn't have anybody standing over us saying, 'No, you can't draw that,' or 'You can't show that.' We could do whatever we wanted." Many of the stars of the underground comic scene lived in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury neighborhood. In addition, all the major publishers were there: Rip-Off Press, Apex Novelties, the San Francisco Comic Book Company. Last Gasp and the Print Mint were based in nearby Berkeley. Some claim that the 8-page pornographic Tijuana Bibles of the 1930s are a precursor to the underground comics of the 1960s. But those were designed for a single purpose. There's nothing controversial, satirical, revolutionary, anti-war, or pro-drug in Iva Krusty Crotch presents Betty Boop in flesh. 1960s cartoonist Ed Big Daddy Roth, creator of Rat Fink and the Weirdos, was another source of underground inspiration. His deliberately ugly drawing style reminds some of mad artist Basil Wolverton. Frank Stack, credited as Foolbert Sturgeon, began his strip The Adventures of Jesus in 1962. Gilbert Shelton began his superhero parody Wonder Warthog in the same year. Jack Jackson's God Knows was published in 1964. But it was 4 years later that R. Crum self-published his first solo comic, Zap Comics, and really kick-started the movement. 3 years after Crum had almost single-handedly established this new market, Gilbert Shelton created his most famous characters, the fabulous furry Freak Brothers, by Rip-Off Press in 1971. We'll end today's presentation with a classic page of dope humor featuring the brothers. Vaughn Baudet, Robert Williams, Trina Robbins, Dennis Kitchen, Rick Griffin, Manuel Spain Rodriguez, Bill Griffith of Zippy the Pinhead fame, Victor Moscoso, Skip Williamson, Shari Flanagan, Justin Green, Diane Newman, Rory Hayes, Richard Corbin, Jay Kinney, Bobby London, Ted Richards, Larry Todd, Art Spiegelman, and the wonderfully over-the-top S. Clay Wilson were all stars in this small creative world. The casual misogyny and exploitation of graphic sex scenes was countered, to a degree, by feminist-inspired work like Trina Robbins' It Ain't Me, Babe, Last Gasp 1970, the first all-female underground comic. In 1972, Last Gasp published Women's Comics, an anthology series by cartoonist Patricia Moodian that featured, among others, Melinda Gebbie, Linda Barry, Aileen Comiskey, and Shari Flanagan. 1972 also saw the release of Joyce Farmer and Lynn Chevelle's Tits and Clits Comics, a second all-female anthology series. 50 years later, many of them have received the praise they deserve, with their work back in print in lush editions, and even museum shows for some. Perhaps this is a small payback for the derision and contempt they got back then. Underground comics were smut, pure and simple, and dangerous because they pushed revolution, free love, and recreational drug use to America's middle-class kids. What many parents did not know at that time was that if you took any page of an underground comic book, tore it out, rolled it up, and smoked it, you would get whacked out of your skull. I still get flashbacks.
Excuse me while I tear the back page out of this. Oh, it's a stereo world. This only gets you a contact high. Great job, Joe. Great job again, buddy. I'd like to introduce Paul Hutchins. He is a optimistic optometrist living in the UK, Lancaster to be specific, near English Lake District, and has been interested in stereoscopy since being first introduced to it via Viewmaster, like so many of us in our childhood. Bridges brought us into this wonderful world. Now, he's been a member of the UK's Stereoscopic Society for nearly 20 years, and we're so happy to welcome the European Insomniacs and all those other folks around the world that join us. All the Insomniacs from around the world, we love you. You're in great company. Now, Paul used a prism beam splitter on a 35mm film SLR, and also digital, everybody's advancing to digital, and of course that all makes sense. An FED stereo 35mm camera, a Kodak ripoff of the Realist. No, that was actually a very good camera, and I have one here. Love it, with the little bubble level in the viewfinder. Very helpful. Style 3D camera. Also a Fuji one, which I like so much because you could transmit your pictures to somebody else. That was kind of clever, but they lost that one in the W3. Although I will not denigrate either of those cameras. Now, his photos were captured in Austria, in a village about 30 miles north of Innsbruck, near the border with Germany. And I'm going to start the first picture. Now, what town is this, Paul?
Yeah, it's a little village called Leutasch, which is northwest of Innsbruck. Innsbruck is in the western part of Austria. Austria is a small country wedged between the Hungary, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and one more, the Slovak Republic, I think. So a village is a small place, really. Normally a few shops and houses and a church. And
how did you hear about this place?
It was in a commercially available walking holiday that my wife and I took, or vacation. And there were only 4 or 5 people in this trip. We had a guide who led us on walks every day from the hotel, probably anything between 8 and 10 miles every day. So
how long ago was that?
This is probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, excellent. Beautiful image.
And it suited walking holidays because there was a lot of flat area. Although they did have skiing, but you had to go up a considerable way in the mountains to go skiing.
What camera were you using during this?
This was the Fuji W3, I think. This was probably about late February, early March.
Now, did someone accompany you on these walks, like a tour guide, or you're on your own?
we had guides leading the walk, so they walked and told us where we led us everywhere. So we all we had to do was to follow them, really.
How big is this village? Were you saying in terms of population?
Only a few hundred people.
Wow.
So that's just our small group, and my wife's on the bottom left there, and the person at the top was the leader.
Now, how far is this outside the village? Do you recall?
This is about a mile. In the evening from the hotel, they had an organised, in the dark, torchlight walk round on this particular route, which was really interesting, with like Olympic flames you have to walk around with to illuminate the country.
And I guess they have a skiing area?
A small skiing area with lifts, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, lifts.
This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And now our next victim, candidate for torture, is Ron Labbe. Now, he's played a tremendous role in spreading the word about 3D in projects too numerous to mention. I urge you to visit his website, Studio 3D, just like it sounds. It's at number 3, so it's STUDIO 3D.com, to marvel at his accomplishments. Very talented fellow, and a great privilege to have him join us and share his work.
So I just picked a couple out of a bunch that I had because I thought there would be many, and I'd rather err on the side of a few good ones than overwhelming and get tiring of the same type of shots. But So I picked two of my favorite from shots right around my house. So this is the entrance to my my backyard, my side yard, and my neighbor's house, which was the pastor's house, because I actually live in a church here in Maynard, and it's a sort of a private 3D museum. So if you're ever in the area, please contact me for a walkthrough. And so this image was a W3 with some topaz. I was playing around with various filters and just trying to get a little bit of fun and color in the white areas. And I thought this one worked out fairly well.
Oh, it's beautiful. What did you shoot it with?
W3.
Old famous W3. It's great. Well, Ron did not mention that when you visit him, you must, of course, genuflect and make the sign of the 3D. It's like a little between the eyes, because that's no.
Oh, the basket is passed, of course, as well.
Well, of course. This is quite lovely. It's so ethereal. We were discussing that about how you're getting that color in there, because it's beautiful.
Ron, are you talking about like the using the cyclopetal adapter to put the topaz filter on the front?
No, it's a topaz in Photoshop plugin.
Okay.
That topaz. But this probably what I almost always have the wide angle adapter on my W3. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, this is most likely with the wide angle adapter.
Well, thanks, Dave, and Ron. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't realize it.
And so, yeah, just happen to have a rocking horse in the yard. I mean, it was on the side of the road, and it was begging to be utilized in a snow scene. So luckily it was in my yard and made for this interesting
It's
shot.
another great one. Yeah, well,
Looks like a rocking sheep.
Yeah, it does, man.
Yeah, it needs a shearing for sure. Sure shear.
Wow, it's a shape-shifted. I can't even say it, but it's that. You already know what I mean. It's great when you could say things and people fill it in for you. Thanks, Ron Labbe. You're always a welcome guest. Come back anytime. Dr. T needs no introduction. It's limitless, the things that he's done. He's another one of those phenomenal enablers that 3D is so full of. This community is so full of people who are just incredibly helpful. Nobody's keeping secrets, and it's wonderful. But he's a tremendous enabler.
People have been mounting stereo slides for over 70 years now, and right in front of me I have a variety of mounts that have been used. Anything from glass, cardboard, paper, aluminum. Today, I recommend using the RBT mounts because they're easy to use, they're accurate, and you can buy them new. So I'm going to show you how to mount in RBT mounts. In front of me, I have some basic tools. I will demonstrate them as I use them. Let's start from the beginning. When you send your roll of film out for processing, you write "do not cut, process only," and most likely you'll get back something like this. The film is rolled and it has a natural curl. Your first step is you need to remove this curl, and this will make mounting very easy. The way you do it is you reverse roll the film and you let it sit for a few hours, maybe up to a day. And I've done this with this one. So when you reverse roll it, it becomes relatively flat. Your first step is to cut the film chips out of this roll. I'm using a little light table here. You can use your phone, the screen, as a light table. You can use a tablet, or you can buy an LED table if you want. Then you need a film cutter. There's a variety of them. This is made by Stereo Realist. This works with friction. You can even use a pair of scissors, but some mounts require accurate cuts. The RBT mounts do not, so you could use a pair of scissors. I always use a glove, and I mostly use it on my right hand, so I handle the film without leaving fingerprints. So here's how you're going to cut this roll of film. You have to start from the beginning, the first picture in the roll. In this case, it's right here. And you orient the film so you can see it. You can read the numbers, the sunny side is up, the emulsion is in the back. Then you pick up your cutter and I put it over the table, let's say this one here, and you thread it through the cutter. And you start making your cuts. So first, here is the first film chip I cut right here. I put it in front of me. I normally have a white piece of paper or this white surface that you see. I put it here and I keep cutting like this and matching the pairs as I go. Now, the Stereo Realist format is interlocking, means you cannot cut the roll anywhere without splitting a pair. As you start cutting, you will notice you have to match the pairs. There is a pattern involved, and you're going to learn this pattern as you start doing it. When I'm done with the cutting, I'm not going to continue cutting this roll, but when I'm done, I will have in front of me a number of pairs, maybe 29 pairs of film chips. Now, the way I did it, the right one is at the bottom and the left one is at the top. This is always the case. One recommendation is I recommend you cut the entire roll before you start mounting. Don't try to mount and cut at the same time because you will get confused. So after you finish your cutting, it's time to do the mounting. So we're going to use the RBT mounts, but something I like to do is I like to preview and decide if I'm going to keep this particular pair or not. So I'm using an aluminum mount because it's easier to use, like a Realist or Albion. It has a channel. So let's say I want to take this pair here. I told you the top one is the left, so I put on the left side, like that. And the bottom one is the right one, so I put on the right side. And then I use my Stereo Realist viewer that I always have around here. And I take a look. At this time, I'm going to make a decision. Either I'm going to throw this away, it's a reject, or I'm going to keep it and mount it in an RBT mount. Now there's a third choice. I keep it and I don't mount in the RBT mount. I keep it in the aluminum mount. If you have a lot of mounts, that's fine, but this is not a permanent, I don't recommend keeping all your stereo slides in this aluminum thin mount. So I recommend transferring to the RBT mount, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. So I take my tweezers, I open the mount. The mount has, it snaps together, it has a black and a white side. The question is which one is the top and which one is the bottom. Some people prefer to have the black in the front because it looks better in the viewer. However, in projection, it gets very hot because it's black. I prefer to use the white in the front. So I'm going to put the black side down, and then I take a pair of pin bars. You need 2 pin bars per mount. They come in the box of mounts. Now, something you need to know, those pin bars are not symmetric. Let me show you very quickly here. I have a little diagram. I'm going to put the pin bars in the mount and then attach the film chips on the pin bars. But I told you they're not symmetric. If you look at them closer, you will see this opening, the dot here, it's either facing down or up. So there's a different orientation. Depending on how you orient the pin bars in the mount, you can create a displacement. Let's assume that your camera is perfectly aligned, so the film chips are aligned. What I do is then I put the pin bars facing down at the top channel, and I'm going to show you this. And by the way, you might need reading glasses. I have reading glass and this magnifier glass loop in the top. So right now I put the pin bars at the top channel of the mount. If there is a vertical misalignment, you can change the orientation of the pin bars, you can flip them around, you can move them in a different channel, and this will create a displacement down to 0.4 millimeters. This is how the system is designed. Also, this shows that the RBT mounts come in different sizes. Right now I'm using the Realist size, but if you're using different cameras, you can select any of the other sizes. So, I'm going to transfer the right film chip from here to the RBT mount, and the left one, put them on the left side. At this point, then I move the pin bars around and I try to center the film chips over the mount. At this point, I want to make sure that my stereo window is correct. I can free view, so I can look down and preview the picture and see where the stereo window is. Or if you cannot do that, you can have a viewer like this, and you can do a preview, and if you need, you can adjust the pin bars horizontally. That adjusts the stereo window. Let's say I'm happy with what I have right now. So then I take the white part and I snap it over the black part. Then I'm done. I take a look in my viewer. If there are any adjustments that need to be done, I do them. If not, I'm done. And that's it. But there is the last step I recommend you do. I recommend that you mark the slide right away. You put a red dot on the lower left corner, and then you take another marker, any color you want, and you write down the date, your name, the location, any information you want. This is very important. If you again look at the slides I have in front of me, most of them don't have anything written, which is a little bit of a problem. Only maybe this guy here had a lot of details, and I urge you to write down things and not leave this blank, because later on when people find the slides, they will have no idea who took them, what do they show. Just look at this. In the back it has all my information. In the front I gave it a title. I said towpath, which is the location, fall 2001, the date. Then I put my name, and then I put S1. This was taken with the RBT S1 camera, something that I would like to keep track of. And if there are people in the slide, write their names. Because now you remember, but years later you won't remember. Your relatives and whoever buys your slides on eBay, they will have no clue. So it's a good idea to write at least your name so you can get the credit and the date. This summarizes the mounting. It's really very simple. It's not complicated. Let me briefly summarize. So you need to reverse the roll to remove the curl. You start cutting from the start, facing up. I advise you to, you stack the pairs as you continue mounting. I advise you to cut the entire roll first. Then you preview them in an aluminum mount. You decide if you want to keep them. If you want to keep them, you put them in the RBT mounts. And when you're done, you write the information, and that's it. Now, two more pieces of advice. You should be organized. I have a little box here, and the box says slide mounting. When I'm done, I'm going to put all my tools like the film cutter, the tweezers, glove, and anything I use, I'm going to put in this box. So I know next time I won't have to go looking for the film cutter, for example. Everything is here. And the other advice is to keep a routine and practice often. The more you mount stereo slides, the more used you are to it, and you could be looking forward to it instead of dreading mounting slides. Personally, I have not sold any film for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, but what I need to do is I need to remount some of those vintage slides. The tape, you see what happens here, the tape goes away, the glass breaks, or in the first original realist mounting system, the film chips were actually heat sealed on a paper mount. So look at this, they come out. So what I do is, if this is an important slide, then I remount an RBT mount. Even though I don't shoot any film my own, I do mounting and remounting all the time.
I don't know if he still does repairs on Stereo Realist and that stuff, but that's an. Uh-oh. Was that you laughing, or was
Yeah,
that?
no, I do. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Where else are you going to get that done? And, you know,
I repair the Stereo Realist cameras, and I repair all stereo viewers, and then I sell the RBT mounts and supplies related to slide mounting.
what a resource. Don't delay in doing this, because as they sit around, you know, things happen. You're going to have those reels sitting somewhere and something's going to get crushed or something's going to happen to them. At least go through. Look, you might not have 29 great shots in there, or six, however many, 17, I forget how many. But you might have one that you forgot about. And isn't that worth the time to go through that and get back to some film? And those who haven't shot film, man, it's a great way to budget your shooting, because rather than have a camera that can shoot 600 pictures, and I love the W3, but on the other hand, having one that you could budget your shots. So you got to think a little about, if you really, how much effort's going to go into when you hit that shutter, you know. So it does do that for you. We are a little past our time. I like to do, you know, cut out at 3:30.